We are live. Welcome back to the No Vaseline Deep podcast.
Welcome back.
That's right.
Thank you so much John for having me on the podcast.
No problem. You're literally the creator of this whole thing. So I'm here with Aidan Diresta, and obviously by this point, whenever this episode is released, you're all gonna know who he is. But Aidan, tell us a bit about yourself anyway.
Dang, my name is Aidan Diresta. I guess I'm the founder, CEO of No Vaseline Media. I'm the host of the No Vaseline podcast. I really like, motivating people, really believe anybody can do whatever they put their mind to. And I just like to really have fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So Aidan, let's talk about how did we meet?
Dang. The first time me and you met, I always knew you from around school as a goon and stuff, but
I just look like a goon. It's what I want to say to people. People meet me and it's a whole fucking culture shock in and of itself. I'm my own culture, you know what I mean?
100%.
It's funny. That's what's funny about it.
Oh yeah, but I just always saw you around school. I just always you were always funny. I feel like you came up to me in the hallway once or twice, or I went up to you or something.
Yeah.
But the real time me and you met each other was Saturday Detention. I was in Saturday Detention, I think because I mooned the librarian. I don't know, it was one of the stories. But yeah. It was a funny day. Do you want to tell them the story?
Yeah, so basically what happened, so we're in detention. I'm there for lates, because keep in mind, I'm like a trendsetter with the lates. I get 20 lates per year. Back at Haworth School, I was late every other day. I had 90 lates. It was a new record. Anyway, so I was there in Saturday Detention.
Never knew that.
And then someone else, and then one of our boys was there in Saturday Detention. Well, he ended up becoming one of my boys. He's pretty funny. So Aidan's there sleeping the whole time. There's this kid, one of my boys, just bugging about who some random person is. And I just keep on saying, who is he? Who is he the whole fucking time? At the end of the time.
Someone is coming up to John, accusing him of knowing someone, I think.
Yeah, and he's just accusing me too. He's saying I'm associated, I'm involved. I don't even know what the fuck he's talking about. And then towards the end, I asked him too many times. He's like, bro, word to my mother, I'm gonna punch you in the face. And that's when Aidan thought I was a funny kid. The funniest part about that, I ended up becoming boys with that kid. He's actually a really cool kid. And you know who you are. You're gonna be on more podcast episodes with me. I fuck with you. But anyway, I guess we'll continue to...
Always a good time. This was the day I fell in with Dominiani. I saw him about to get his shit punched in, if you didn't understand what was just about to happen.
But I didn't care. I was so carefree about it. I thought it was pretty funny. Even if I did get my shit punched in, he would beat the shit out of me. But I just thought it was funny.
It was very funny.
Take it seriously. How do I take these things seriously? I don't take anything seriously. At the deepest level, nothing is really serious anyway, so...
Oh, yeah. Continue on. What would you want to say to me next? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
The next thing is going to tie into how everything happens for a reason, how this is one of the spiritual things that you actually believe in. But we'll talk about that more later, but how we actually, really got to know each other was the craziest thing is that I've already said this in other podcast episodes, but my house burned down.
House fire check. Hey, yo, EMS response to the house fire check. You know the vibe.
And the insurance put us in a rental home literally right across the street to you. What are the odds of that?
I remember I hit him up randomly one day to hang out, and he was like, word. And then I see him walking his dog, and I was like, John? And he was like, yeah. I was like, what the fuck are you doing?
I was still in the hotel there. I was still at, shout out to Homewood Suites in Tina. Nice hotel. Mad cool. People wake and bake there every morning. It's fucking funny ass place. Anyway, so he hits me up, and he's like, we should hang out, word. A week later, I live right across the street. She's walking my dog. And that's how we met. That's crazy to me. If it weren't for that, we wouldn't really be friends. I wouldn't be part of No Vaseline. No Vas Deep wouldn't be a thing. So, I don't know. To me, that's just pretty crazy. But next, you want to say something?
Like you said, everything happens for a reason, You just got to always have an open mind. John's always been real open towards me all through my ups and downs through this, my craziness,
I love it all.
Yeah, you just got to have an open mind. And, the more opportunities, the more fun you'll have with people, the more people you'll meet, and everything does happen for a reason,
I mean, why wouldn't I be with you through all the up and downs? I mean, how I view the world, I'll talk about this later, too, is that, to me, the only, rational emotions anyway is positivity. So why wouldn't I view everything with, a positive outlook? If you're in a good mood, I'm in a good mood, too. I'm happy. If you're in a bad mood, maybe it's pretty funny, you know what I mean? There's always something to be excited about, you know what I mean?
Huge shout out.
World works.
Huge shout out to Miss Lopez. You're literally exactly what you're talking about, bro. There's a book that she just, recommended. The Energy Bus, if you're watching this. Miss Lopez, if this ever makes the way to you. The Energy Bus. So this is, literally all about, how you live your life. I'll give it to you right after.
Just like my podcast, all about how I live my life. Now, we're actually going to talk about books more in a bit. But first I want to ask, why did you want to create No Vaseline? Go into depth as much as you want.
Dang. So basically, in my life, you know, I've always known I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I kind of always been funny, this, that. And it really started out with, like, a mindset change with me. I kind of, like, I just kind of, like, wasn't really happy with where I was at. You know, I remember I was working a job. It's a whole story that I'll get into later. But basically, I said, fuck this. I'm never going to work for someone again a day in my life. And I started out with stocks. And even before that, I was really starting to study stocks and real estate. But I remember one day there, it was just like, never again. And I was studying, like, stocks and real estate in my room and stuff, like, you know, and I'd get stoned and, like, you know, like, you have to study a stock book. It's, like, not that fun, you know? It's, like, always, like, a good thing to, you know, and I really do believe it's easy once you get into it. I believe anything you get into is easy and attainable.
You like it. Exactly.
One weekend, my cousin came here, and just the entire weekend was funny. You know, it was just, like, a good time the entire weekend. And I had an idea of a podcast, like, way, way, way long ago. But I was just like, fuck it. Like, I'm going to start a podcast. And, you know, there's a bunch more ideas that happened from there. Eventually, a couple, like 2 or 3 months later, after just working on street, like, comedy material, I decided I wanted to turn it into more of, like, a business, include my friends, you know, become, like, more into social media, and just really kind of turn it into anything I wanted to do. Why do I do this? Because this can be anything I want to. If I want to open up a gym, I could do it with No VAS Fitness. If I want to game, No VAS Gaming Club. If I want to be funny, if I want to hang out with models, whatever it is.
Find the job you like. You never work a day in your life.
Exactly.
Now, what you just said before, we'll get to the other things later, but what you said before is really interesting because I feel like that's like the typical like entrepreneurial success story. Like people like no matter how much you're working, even if you work like an hour a day for someone, people get really fed up with that's Sophie.
Keep on going.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Keep on going.
We can cut that out. So anyway, people get really fed up with what they're doing, and it makes them realize people should be able to live their life on their own term. You know what I mean? Everyone should live their life on their own term, and that's what happens. That's what happens with a lot of people I know. I mean, more people coming on this podcast, you'll see. Like one of my special guests coming on in a week or two said that with him, the reason that he started his own journey and working on his own shit was because he realized that what he was doing, having to work until like 12 o'clock at night, you know, fucking really got to him. He realized that literally we are simply alive, right? All you should be doing, like you should literally, it's kind of like, quote, I talk about Alan Watts a lot here, but what Alan Watts said about the secret to life, bro, she's obsessed with me. Yeah, anyways, he said the secret to life, what did he say? He said something about it, but he said, the secret to life is to simply live in the present at all times, but also realize that what you're doing is not work at all. It is simply play. And when you think of it that way, everything is simply play. You're playing, you're toying, you're interacting with this physical realm we live in on a daily basis. You know, you're like literally like you're just enjoying the moment of what you have. And like, that's why you shouldn't really, unless you have to, you shouldn't really have to work on other people's terms. You should simply just enjoy the things that you actually have. So, anyway.
I agree.
So, Aidan, what motivates you? I know we were just talking about this before a bit, but what really, really motivates you? And not just with wanting for the business, like with all the books you read, like what are like the principles by how you live your life that motivate you?
Dang, like I said before, really keeping an open mind, never judging someone. You know, if you judge anyone, you know, I feel like you got negative. Everybody judges people to a certain extent, but like, I don't like people who like really judge because it's just like a certain vibe of negativity. You know, if you like, you really have to truly like accept everyone for who they are. That's one of the things. Take inspiration from everywhere, whether it's music, whether it's companies, whether it's, you know, books. I really just like to take inspiration from everywhere and always be learning. Whether you're the star student in the room or like whether you've gone to jail, you know, you have an opinion with me, you know.
That's something I love a lot about how, and this is the funny thing, Aidan. You told me you didn't think you were too spiritual, but you realize how all this ties in. Like I don't know if you remember in the podcast we had a few weeks ago with Emmett and Slice and Usher, how I was saying how the reason I say that I'm like a pretty content person. I mean, I always want things, you know, but the reason I say I'm a pretty happy person is because to me it's just crazy that we're able to experience this miracle of consciousness, and we're able to experience all these different things and see all these different people and see all these different landscapes and environment and interact with this physical realm on a daily basis and see all these different things happen. And I think I agree that you should You can find inspiration from anyone. You find inspiration from someone who's maybe really good at a sport. Find inspiration from someone who's really smart, top of the class, you said. Literally from someone who's in prison. Literally someone who's, like, would be viewed by our fucked up society as quote-unquote deadbeat or whatever. You find inspiration from everyone, and you just appreciate, to me, not only that, but I also just appreciate that I'm able to see all of this unpredictability and all of these and all these variations and all these different people, you know?
Yeah, you really just gotta, like, you know, focus on, like, a goal. And someone told me this quote yesterday from, like, a YouTuber. My boy Cody B, shout out to you. He was really, me and him were just, like, on this motivational stuff the other night at, like, 2 a.m. And one of the things he said was, don't lose sight, you know? Like, my plans have changed 100 times. My plans will change every day. I'll fail 100 times, you know? But you just can't lose sight of, like, you know, what the bigger picture is and, like, what you really want. And that really motivates me, the bigger picture all the time. You know, thinking about, like, you know, hopefully when this comes out, the No VAS release party will happen, you know. The last 6 months thinking about, you know, when I turn 18, I'm going to walk out there with, like, a beer bottle in my hand and, like, a joint in my mouth, you know.
Hopefully by this episode, because I don't know if this is the first one to release. If it is, then it won't be. But hopefully by the time this episode comes out, No VAS Deep is going to have a following too, you know. Like, I already have 56 or 57, whatever. I know it's small. It's all people I know, but keep on expanding. We'll see what happens.
Hey, man, it's called a bringer show. Exactly. You want to see some inspiration? That's what they do. That's what the comedians do. If you're a young stand-up comedian, you first do a bringer show where all your friends come, you know? That's what it's called.
You need to have connections from somewhere. That's how you build your network with anything, not just with business. I know you always talk a lot about building your network, because I know you're really into business, but literally with anything, how do you get to know if an idea you have is viable? You have to actually see if the people closest to you are interested in it. You know what I mean? You have to use people around you as guinea pigs. And I definitely also agree with what you just said about keeping your eyes on the goal, because this brings me to something else, is that, especially with this goal, because with the goal of No Vaseline, is that, to me, at least, it's so inherently unique. As a matter of fact, it kind of makes sense. One of the things that I find so special about this brand is that there's a lot of other big social media brands out there, but what I noticed that none of them do, or at least some of them do, but not to this extent, is none of them are as generalized to the extent as No Vaseline. What I mean by generalized is there are so many different sub-brands. I can name 10 right now off the top of my head. No VAS Pod, No VAS Fitness Club, No VAS Modeling, My Podcast,
whatever it
No VAS Cars, anything. I don't need to name 10. They get the idea. There's so many. Y'all are going to see all the shit when it comes out, not just mine. And so I think that's one of the things that I love about it, is not only is it all generalized under this one brand, and that everything is all kind of interconnected within this brand, all the different elements, all the different people, everyone knows each other. It's like a whole community. That's the thing. It's a whole community. This is a brand where people elevate each other. It's like a symbiotic relationship. That's what I think people should love No VAS, because on the one hand, let's say an example would be with my podcast. If people really, really like my podcast, they're going to follow No VAS. They're going to see on my page it's a link to No Vaseline Media, and chances are, if they're really into it, they're going to follow the other shit on No VAS. Conversely, and at the same time, people are going to also come to my podcast because I'm affiliated with No VAS, which is going to be a lethal takeover that everyone's going to be looking at. You know what I mean? See how it goes two ways like that? I can't name many other so big social media brands where it goes two ways like that, because all these other big brands are really just like an exclusive club of like the creators, you know? With it's more involvement. Like there's like literally dozens of different people who are involved in this. Actually, like, you know, be on video and all of these things.
The most important parts are just, you know, to elevate, like, you know, everybody's personal brands, as well as, like, the bigger brand of No Vaseline, so that, you know, we're all expanding. You know, my brand is nothing without your guys' personal brands, and, you know, vice versa. But even then, I wouldn't like to say vice versa. Any one of you guys could go out there and make it on your own, you know. It's just, like, we're stronger with unity, I feel like, all cross-promoting, you know, all being on each other's
with the connections. Like, I was just saying to you right before this podcast, and I really appreciate this, and I really mean this a lot. It's fucking crazy. It doesn't blow my mind that someone, like, wanted to, like, be friends with me, obviously, because, like, everyone makes friends, right? But it blew my mind that you took enough interest in me that you're literally just... I know you don't want me to say the word.
This kid's caring. The best.
I know you don't want me to say, like, carrying to the top.
I don't carry this kid at all. This kid carries himself.
I know you want to say that, but what I'm saying, I appreciate, like... How popular would this be if I wasn't affiliated with your brand, if you're not putting me on your Snapchat all the time, if you're not literally making me, like, a relevant person by whatever humanity defines as relevant, you know? Like, how big would my podcast be? It wouldn't be big at all. Like, sure, I'm helping the brand by being part of it. That's what I mean. It's symbiotic. You're making me... You could potentially make me relevant with this if enough people like it. And if people come to my podcast, they're going to see all the shit on the No Vaseline company.
Exactly like you said, how, like, everything happens for a reason. All my past experiences, you know, past businesses, this, that, I really haven't dabbled that much into social media, you know, a little bit. Not, like, really. I've never tried to be a YouTuber or nothing. But all of them have, like, led up to where I, like, every time, like, I, like, release something, you know, I, like you said, it all, like, generalizes back. You know, it all generalizes back, like, the way I live my life. You know, anything you say, like, whether it's, like, in our relationship, the promotion, you know, this, that. It's all about just, like, you know, someone said to me yesterday, we were out to an all-you-could-eat thing. Come check out No VAS Eats. They're funny as fuck.
It's fucking funny.
But we left the restaurant.
Shout out Kento.
We left the restaurant, and one of my boys said to me, he was like, yo, like, how do you talk to people like that? You know?
That's what I don't get about you either. Like, you have amazing social skills, bro. Like, I don't get that.
But the thing is that, you know, I just really believe in what I'm saying, you know? Whether I'm, like, blackout drunk, whether I'm sober, whether I'm giving motivational shit, whether I'm trying to be funny, you know, whether I make a fucked up joke. Generally, my ideas are mostly the same. You know, not saying that I don't change or grow, but, like, if you truly believe, like, you know, how much more confident, like, you know, when you do have these, like, podcasts, how much more confident are you than you talk than, like, when you're talking about something that you don't know about, like, such as cars, you know?
I wouldn't be confident about that, but when I'm on this podcast, like, right now, I'm extremely confident.
Oh, exactly.
I actually want to say, just the reason I was laughing is, and maybe you can also come on when I have the one with John Chan. Shout out to John D. Chan on Twitch. You also follow my boy. He's a really, really great person.
Oh, huge spiritual man.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm saying, what you were saying about literally having all this content, what you're saying, that's literally all he's about. Like, that's what he's all about, you know? Like, I'm just laughing because, like, you're going to have a great conversation with him. As he even says, like, he wants to, like, how he views the world, like, he views himself like how everyone should view themselves as the main character of a video game. You know what I mean? And that's when you're the main character of a video game, especially when you're playing the game, when you play, like, a game on your PS5 or whatever, you play it in a way such that you will do anything and you are confident in anything that you do beyond any reasonable doubt. That's how you should live your life, to me. You should be, like, now you can, and what that means, this is one of the tenets of how I live life, is that you, of course, you can still take constructive criticism, right? But what I mean by that, Aidan, is, like, if I said to you, your market, it's just like a random example. I'm not saying it is, but I think it's really good. But if I, for whatever reason, said your marketing strategy is not good, you might take that as constructive criticism, but you wouldn't let that shatter your confidence. Why? Because to me, what confidence is sure, maybe that's bad, but you can work on it because the whole idea is the brand. You have so much confidence in the brand, the true belief at the very bottom. For instance, I've done a lot of thinking. I have done a lot of spiritual enhancement, as you guys will know from these other episodes. I've enhanced spiritually my consciousness and everything. And so with me, I've come to the point where I'm so confident in my beliefs that there is nothing that can drown me in any shred of doubt. However, when it comes to realizing my dreams better, you know, I'll still go to people for constructive criticism. This is, like, a very important thing I've learned. Like, I'll still ask, like, I ask Ian all the time, like, how can I make these podcasts better?
Oh, same here. You always have to be asking everybody.
Like, I'm very confident in the idea of this podcast. It's all about, you know, like, I want the constructive criticism to actually make it better, to realize that dream you have. That's what everyone should do. Everyone should. We'll talk about, you'll see a lot more of this on the episode with John Chan, but he can go off about this too. Now, I want to say something about, I want to kind of make a little transition about what he said earlier about everything happened for a reason. And I'm going to say why I do, but why do you think that everything happens for a reason? I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me.
Why do I think everything happens for a reason? That's a pretty loaded question. It's the exact same thing as, like, you know, someone believing in a God, or, like, someone, you know, believing in anything. You know, it's just a better way to live your life, you know, having something to believe in, you know, having something that you know,
exactly.
You know, having the true faith, base. I just feel like makes anybody better.
Bro, that's base. That's, you're literally spitting facts, but that's literally, like, it's very similar to how I think about what you just said about, kind of ties into something else I might have said I don't know, well, that's the thing that, I might even cut this part out, but, like, I don't know if this is going to be from a past or future podcast, if the viewers have seen this or not, but the other thing one of the reasons I agree about living as if everything happens for a reason is, and this coming from someone who I used to, like, I still am, like, friends, like, I'm very, like, scientific person. Like, I really believe in all the shit they do in physics. I believe it's all real. But even I realize that goes to a limit, because to me, this coming from someone who used to believe in all the shit about, like, the Big Bang and everything, about everything is due to science and nothing is spiritual. I used to be like that, but I realized when it comes to the things at the very deepest level like this that we cannot truly prove, like, we cannot truly prove what the nature of time is, what the nature of reality is, if we are living in a simulation, or if we are all part of one interconnected collective consciousness. We can't prove all these things, right? But if any of those given ideas make your life happier, and this is one of those things where it's like not really harmful, you know, like if you have certain beliefs that might be harmful to society but they make you happier, that might not be good. This is one of those things where, like, if I want to be spiritual, that's not harming anyone, it's making you happier, so why wouldn't you choose to do it? Why wouldn't you choose to believe that everything happens for a reason, Aidan? You know what I mean?
I agree. There's
exactly. Even if you had no evidence to say so. Now, I mean, there is a lot of evidence to say so, but even if you, and I'll get to that in a minute, some really interesting shit, but even if you didn't, right, have any evidence, why wouldn't you believe that if it literally makes you a happier, more content person? It doesn't actually matter if you're right about everything in the grand eyes of the universe. It's all a cosmic joke. I don't think the universe actually cares about what the specific human says about the specific thing.
Yeah, man, nothing really matters. You know, whatever problems you have are very relative, you know. 1/3, I always say it all the time, 1/3 of, you know, humans don't have a working bathroom. It's insane to, you know, think a girl not Snapchatting you back, or, like, you know, your Wi-Fi going out, or, like, you lose at gambling. You know, people don't have money
Shout out to Rich, bro.
But it's so crazy to think that these things are such, you know, a lot of people have way bigger problems, you know. And not to say your problems aren't anything, but still, you know, sometimes it takes a second to just take a step back and just, like, you know, think about what you're grateful for, you know, think about the people that help you out, think about the things that, you know, have made it able to, you know, things that have carved a path for you to be able to do what you do, you know.
I think that's actually like something I really want to touch on right now. Oh, I thought that was the camera. Is it your dog crying to see me? That's funny. The idea of what was I going to say? No, yeah, the idea of the fact that everything that about being grateful, right? Is the idea that there's a very important distinction to make between that and what I'm about to say. You can still have problems, and no one should invalidate your feelings if you have problems. But you're right. People should still take a step back. Like, you can, like, still have problems, and that's okay to have your own problems. But when you put things, I know it's so cliche, like, but when you put it into perspective, when you really think about it, at the end of the day, the thing that matters the most is that we're all alive and able to experience all of this, no matter how good or bad you have it. So you're right. You got to put it into perspective sometimes. Like, especially where we live, like, in America, like, we have so much, like, not just you and me, but, like, anyone in America relative to the rest of the world has so much privilege. Like, our culture, like, we get mad over the dumbest shit, I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, as a culture. Like, what do we even get mad about, you know? Like,
people get mad about the stupidest stuff, man.
Out of pocket. Like,
one of the things I always say is that, like, you cannot control anything, yet you can control everything.
That's true.
Meaning, like, you can't control if you're going to get in a car accident. You can't control if your toe is going to get stubbed. You can't control if your Wi-Fi is going to go out, you know. But if you just don't lose sight and just, like, you know, really just believe in yourself and just keep on trusting the process, you know, consistency in whatever you do, you know, you can control everything, your destiny. You can control whether you're happy. You can control your money situation. You know, whenever you think you can't, you know, you can control everything, dude. Not one thing happens by accident. But,
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I just want to say, all right, unless you want to hold that, about what you were saying. I just, like, realized, like, you're actually way more spiritual than you might think, Aidan. Like, I know you're very business driven and all that, but I don't even think you realize, like, you say you're not spiritual, you don't realize you actually are, which is a good thing. You can only get better from there. Now, what I want to say about what you were saying,
I'm not a complete sociopath.
No,
I'll go with you. Move it
yeah,
so it doesn't block your face.
Oh, what do you say?
You're good. Never mind.
Yeah, so what I was going to say kind of ties into, once again, and with everything happens for a reason, about what you were just saying about how people find each other, is that, as I said before, you should choose to live in the way that makes you the happiest, but even without evidence, but there is so much evidence for that everything happens for a reason, shit. Like, the fact that, what's it called? Like if you view it, even if you, for instance, if you're like if you're like all like atheists, like pro-science, and you view everything from the stance of scientific determinism, which, if you don't know, that's a pretty interesting idea, actually, basically states that every single event that happens, since the idea is that all of life and consciousness is due to chemical reactions, the idea is that every single event that happens in the universe is already, like, technically predestined due to the locations and arrangements of atoms and everything like that, so that every single chemical reaction is predetermined. This whole conversation is all of that. Now, I don't believe that. I used to buy into that shit. I don't really buy into it anymore, but even if you view it from that way...
That's what you used to believe in.
Right, no, but I still believe in everything That implies that everything happens for a reason. I used to believe everything happens for a reason because of that, but now I believe it kind of differently. I believe everything happens for a reason, and not only just because of things being predetermined, but because everyone, to me, different people's consciousness, everyone's consciousness, consciousness as a life and humans and like vessels like ours, which can possess consciousness, we have a really good ability of, whether it's by chance or by accident, finding things when we really need them. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't realize, like when we find things we really need, like, it's almost. No, I'm not gonna say. I'm not saying I didn't obviously need my house to burn down. It's pretty fucked up, you know. I guess like I gotta be careful what I say. Like, people are gonna think I'm fucking crazy, but like when things like yeah, but like it was something that ended up being something that I needed because now now we live right here and now I'm part of this. Now I'm doing this podcast, which, not gonna lie, is the most exciting thing I've ever done in my life. Because my whole goal of it is to make all the viewers happier, because I love everybody on earth and I want to make every single person, no exclusions, I want to make every single person happier, and I'm one step closer to at least making some people happier by doing this. And 100%. So what I find is that's what I mean about as we said, everything happens for a reason. People always find each other when they need them, you know? People, not just people, you always find what you need when you need it. Whatever happens is not an accident to me. Everything that happens, you might not want what happens, but what happens to you is what you need, and that's where you gain lessons from it, no matter what happens.
100%. When you're at like some of your lowest points, there's only one place to go from there.
Exactly.
You can only take your experiences, learn, and get better.
That's right. Now,
one thing that's real interesting about you, Tom.
Yeah.
Is the fact that you always just want to help everybody be nice, which is the best thing, you know? Like, I saw something of a school principal. They said he was the best principal, forgiving the kid who murdered his son, you know? But that's exactly what you would do if you were in that position. Like, we've talked all the time.
Exactly. That's one thing I want to say. You're giving me a good opportunity here, too. Because I will admit, as a new podcast host, I'm not always the best at explaining things. I need to get better at this. But this gives me a perfect opportunity to explain how my mind works. Because if there's one thing you take away from my podcast, this is the only, if you don't take anything else away from any of these episodes, it's fine. You need to take this away, though. It's the idea that at the end of the day, every single person is simply alive. Now, how I view it, to me, right, is that every single person is basically like it's basically a vessel within this physical realm. Consciousness is a separate metaphysical plane which inhabits everyone's bodies. In that sense, everyone, although we're all different because we all have different bodies which enhance our consciousness in different ways, you know, at the end of the day, everyone is simply alive to me. Even if you don't view the world that same way, what it makes me realize about treating people with kindness is, for that reason, to me, I've realized that everyone is simply alive, and that's like such a meaningful thing to me that makes me want to treat everyone with kindness, because everyone is simply living like I am. There's nothing that makes anyone better or worse, you know, there's nothing that really makes anyone better or worse, whether it be, you know, intellectual traits, physical traits, anything like that. And so the thing is, even if you don't view it that way, the reason I always care so much about being kind is that, think about this, and you might have an answer, but you'll realize that it's only on a superficial level. To the viewers and to you, Aidan, what does it actually do in any given situation to be mean to someone in the long term? Now, in the short term, there's obviously extreme cases, right, where you might have to do something to stop someone. Like if someone is going to, you know, like if you see someone who's holding a nuclear missile in their hands, it's going to blow up an entire city. And you have a gun, you're probably going to shoot them, right? But even then, you can still be kind to the person after, right? As fucked up as that sounds. But in the general scheme of things, when in your daily lives, assuming that no one's holding a nuclear weapon to you, when is it ever valid to be mean to someone? Now, you might say, oh, if someone's mean to you. No, because that doesn't do anything. That just continues the cycle of hatred. If you are kind to that person, it will make them a better person, make you a better person. You might say, oh, because it's a really disgusting person, like this person is like, I don't know, like a bigot or a race or whatever. No, that doesn't do anything either. Even from a psychological standpoint, it makes people realize, like, people react to this shit, and they're like, it just makes people realize, like, wow, like, I don't know, to me, it just doesn't do anything. That's why I care so much about being kind. It's because at the end of the day, what can you actually achieve by being mean? Ever. To anybody. Regardless of what they've done. Yes, to literally anyone, as crazy that sounds. Now, people can twist that however they want and imply that means that, oh, so you would be nice to, like, insert whatever example. Yes, I would. I literally would be nice to anyone because that's the best way to change the world. And the other thing that people realize, the second thing I want to say, I'm sorry for talking so long about this, but...
No, dude, this is amazing.
But the second thing is people will say, what about what they have done in their past actions? And this brings up another interesting point. The past doesn't matter because the past, from a spiritual and metaphysical perspective, is not even real. The past and the future are literally human constructs. It doesn't exist. We never ever exist in the past, nor do we ever exist in the future. The only thing that is eternal is the present. As Master Oogway said, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it is called the present. So if someone did something really mean to you, or really did something really fucked up the day before, or even a second ago, like a split second ago, what is it actually going to do to be mean to them now? Because in the present they are not doing anything to you, right? They are not. So what would it do to just be mean to them? Because the past, when you look at it this way, as the past doesn't exist, what is it actually doing to be mean to them? That's what I'm saying. That's what I think. It's really how I think about these things. And I think when people, and you could still disagree with me if you want, but what I think is when people start to think about the world this way, they'll realize they'll become much happier people because you don't really hold grudges as much anymore when shit like this happens. Like, I used to hold grudges against people, used to be jealous of people. Now I don't care if anyone's better or worse than me. I just hope that everyone lives their best lives. As a matter of fact, one of the ways I actually think is that I actually hope that every single person in the world is living an even better life than I am. The reason I say that is because from my perspective, I'm living a great life. And if other people are living even better lives, then that's amazing. Why wouldn't I want that, you know?
I agree. It's dope as hell. And I'm sure that you will be seeing me a lot more on John Dom's podcast. This is too much fun.
Yeah, and I'll be coming on No VAS Pod one of these days. Crew interview. It's going to be fun. We'll talk about all sorts of fuck shit, you know? Now, before we end in a few minutes, one more thing that's important I want to ask you, and it's kind of a multitude of things, is for achieving your goals, what do you actually do to better yourself on a daily basis? Whether it be like gaining new knowledge, building new insights, like what do you actually do? Like, can you give us like a brief like few minute rundown of the things you do?
Like a daily thing or like just like a general thing?
Well, I guess general is more important.
Just gotta constantly be working towards the goal. You know, nothing else should really matter. You know, no girls, no partying, no people coming here to bullshit. You know. You gotta, constantly look at the people who did it before, try to see what they did good, see what they did bad, emulate it, You really just have to, want it. You have to be motivated. You have to seek motivation in places that you don't get it. You have to surround yourself with people who are better than you, people who know things that you don't know about, people who can, just help you be an overall better person, You gotta, try to keep your mind right the entire time, because if your mind's not right, I feel, I feel like I'm going to lose my mind, but, I'm sure people think I'm losing my mind all the time, But it's like nothing, you really just got to want it, staying up all night, staying in Vaseline for 24 hours.
That was fun.
Fucking,
I wasn't even in it, but that, it's just fun to be there to see that shit happen.
Yeah, not seeing my friends, not getting with girls, All of it's, so small, for such a bigger, thing. It was just such, even then, there's someone watching this who's like, damn, those are his problems.
Exactly. But as we said before, I mean, obviously it doesn't mean that, Aidan understands, sure, those might not be big problems compared to other people, but he understands that. We all understand that. We all understand that everything is
nothing's a problem, brother. Second, let anything be a problem.
Exactly. That's what I mean. To me, it's all about just loving and being kind to everyone and just appreciating everything that we have,
You said it earlier, bro, when me and you were talking, There's a difference, small problems are fixable, Big problems I like to associate when people are like, how are you going to do this? Like, how the hell is that going to happen, Nothing's ever a big problem to me, And you can't ever let it be.
To me, every problem is fixable in one way or another. Either A, it's literally fixable, if you broke your computer, you can fix it. Or B, it's a problem that, this is pretty interesting, you might find this interesting, is that although technically you can't fix it, if you broke the TV or something, technically you can't fix it, but you can solve that problem by not caring about it anymore because it's in the past, and in the present it doesn't matter.
I don't like one thing about John that I really fuck with, I don't like people who really don't, like, who aren't proactive. I like it when whenever I tell someone, ask if they could do something, I really like it, especially when someone doesn't know how to do something. I like it when they say yes, because they're going to figure out how to do it,
Mm-hmm.
This, as long as you're always willing to learn new things. Like, if you really think you can't do something, that's where you cheated yourself.
Exactly. That's the minute you lost.
Exactly.
That, like, literally, the second you say I can't do it, you've already lost. There's, like, or in the brief moment you've lost, either you can change your attitude, you know what I mean? That's
Exactly.
the thing. You got to be proactive. You got to fix your problems. You got to, what's it called? You got to, if the problems aren't fixable, you got to learn how to make them not problems. For instance, with me, people always ask me, like, I've had my deal of what many would view as very bad luck happen in the past few months. My house burned down, which people are like, wow, that's terrible. And I start laughing about it. I'm like, it was great. It was an adrenaline-inducing experience, and people looking like I'm fucking crazy. One thing that obviously wasn't great is that my grandfather, who I was like, was really, really, really close with, passed away. There was nothing great about that at all, unlike with the house. The house was pretty cool, but there was nothing great about that at all, and that's a problem I can't fix. But I can, because you realize that when you realize that you can fix these problems, because you realize that we only live in the present, like I can't worry about the past. I mean, I can still be grateful for all the memories I might have had with someone like my grandfather, but the only way to fix that problem is to simply just exist in the present, appreciate what I have, just appreciate that I'm alive. So regardless of what happens, I can still be happy, even if things try to, if the world or if whatever forces acting upon me try to bring me down, like what I just said, you always got to find ways to solve these problems, whether it be by forgetting about the problems and looking at the positives, or by literally solving the problem. Anyway,
I agree, dude. I'm sure this is not the last of me out
it's
here.
not the last of us, but this is not the last of you on this episode either, but this is the last of what we're going to say for this episode. It was really nice having you on, Aidan.
Done.
Definitely come on again.
Always a pleasure. Please go fucking follow him.
Go follow No VAS Deep. It's on linked on the No VAS media page.
John Dominiani, No VAS Deep. Go follow all of this
People
shit.
take over everything. Go buy merch for everybody on the No VAS store. Got some funny merch. They got to see the merch. It's some funny shit.
Shout out. Oh yeah, shout that out.
Yes, sir.
Fucking they're like, what's